Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at the HGUC Nemo for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you guys will indulge me for a moment before we get into the review. Number one, this is a Zeta-era mobile suit. There you can see the Zeta in the background, and recently we've been taking a look at a lot of Zeta-related stuff, especially different versions of the Zeta Gundam, because we have the Master Grade Zeta for Ka about to come out, so this is another Zeta-era mobile suit, so it makes sense. Number two, we recently saw the Nemo in a MOOC. I believe it was the iHeart RGM MOOC, even though this is not an RGM unit. This is, I believe it was featured in that book, and I remember saying to you guys in that MOOC review video that I've always liked the Nemo for a lot of reasons, but then there's other reasons why I don't really quite like the design. It's a design that's always kind of been I can't tell if I like it or not kind of thing, you know what I mean? So feel free to go back and check out some of the recent MOOC reviews if you guys have been missing those. But that brings us to the reason why I did ultimately decide it is time for me to go ahead and build one, and that's because the third reason that we are currently having the Advanced Zeta contest at the moment, and the idea that I've always had in my head for a Nemo is to make an Advanced Zeta version of this using kit bashing it with parts from the Advanced Hazel. I think it would look quite cool, and that's what I want to do alongside you guys for the contest. Now obviously I can't enter in my own contest, but I do want to make my own kind of kit bash idea here, and that's what I'm going to do with this kit after the review. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the unboxing and the review, and we'll talk more about my idea for my custom kit bash later on. So as I mentioned, here on the box, you do have the transformed Zeta there in the background, the Mark II, a bunch of other Nemos, some other suits, Rick Diaz from the Zeta series. So some really cool box art here on the front. On the side, this is the 150th release in the HGUC lineup. On the bottom of the box, we got to look at the painted kit front and back, some information here all in Japanese, and then our box art recreated right there with some model kits. On the other side, it looks at some of the features of the kit. There it is, recreating the pose from the box art, showing off some of the weapons and posability here in this picture. It's got your standard loadout, shield, beam saber, beam rifle, and that's gonna be about it. But some really nice hand options it looks like for this. Some nice articulation and everything looks pretty good. And then let's go ahead and check it out. Popping open the box, you guys can see it's a pretty thin box, as it's gonna be a fairly simple mobile suit, of course. Inside here, let's take a look at the instructions. We've got our standard HGUC instructions here with a nice big image here of a photograph of the sample build, all painted up for your reference, and then some information over here on the side. On the back side, some more reference photos there showing some of the features and gimmicks there of the kit, basically everything we saw on the outside of the box. Then we've got our color guide down here at the bottom. Opening it up to the center pages, we've got more text and information about different aspects of the kit, the backpack, the beam sabers, over here about the Vulcans in the head, the beam rifle, and the saber there, the shield, the ankles. So a bunch of cool information in there if you're interested. It's all in Japanese, but I'm sure it's probably all on the wiki page as well. There's some more about the mobile suit, and down here some other HGUC gyms. We got the gym, gym 2, gym custom, the gym 3, and of course the HGUC Jagan, of which there's many variants of all of those kits, and then some of the HGUC Zeta mobile suits here as well. This obviously came out before we had the Revive version of the HGUC Zeta, which is far superior. Anyway, we've got our parts list in here, and then the rest of this is just all going to be our construction, all in black and white. Let's check out, let's see, our stickers for the kit, of which there's quite a few. You really don't like to see that many stickers on an HG kit, but here we have some for the cameras, for underneath the lens, underneath the visor there in the head, but then a bunch of these color correcting stickers that are going to go around on the kit. Getting into the runners here, we've got some polycaps on our PC001 runner in gray. We got SB6 for our shorter type 1/44 scale beam saber effect parts here in a neon green, and then HGMP1 for our set of generic HG, these are like EFSF style hands here for open hands and holding hands. Runner A1 here, interestingly, not a multicolor runner, just all dark blue for all of our dark blue parts for the kit. Then runner B1 and B2, which is a copy of this part of the runner, is going to be in that very unique green color, which is very iconic to the Nemo. And then runners C1 and C2 are going to be in your standard medium gray color for a bunch of the joint parts, weapons parts over here as well. Lastly, we've got runners D and E. D is going to be a couple of our yellow, kind of orangish yellow parts right there for our accents, and then E is going to be our clear orange part there for the visor, and that's it. Alright guys, so here is the Nemo all built up. Pretty awesome little kit, I have to say. You know, it's a grunt and it's an HG, so don't expect anything too crazy out of it, but it was a really nice, solid kit. I really liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. I guess I just kind of forgot how nice the HGUC kits were around this particular time period of when we were getting a lot of HG kits from the Unicorn series especially. 2013, after all, is only 10 years ago. It really is not all that long ago. But this kit has really nice construction, really good articulation and nice posing options. The accessories are going to be relatively basic, but you have some cool stuff in there. It is a grunt again after all. And it just makes me even that much more excited to work on this as like a custom kit bash somewhere in the future. But for now, let's focus in on this kit. So even though most of the accessories for this are going to be pretty straightforward, one thing that you'll notice and one thing that is amazing that I love about this is right here, you can see the hands, it comes with closed fists. We actually have a pretty good range of hand options here for this. We've got a set of open hands for the left and the right side, very nice. You're holding hands here, of course, for the beam sabers. And then a dedicated trigger finger hand with a bent wrist there as well for holding the beam rifle. The beam rifle itself has a little sticker there for the camera and a little peg here in the side, so that will slot into the hand for a nice firm connection. So while that's nice and looks great, and the secondary handle is also functional if you want to use that, the only downside is that it is going to have a seam line, but again, for an HG kit, that's pretty normal, a seam line there across the top, but it's just like a flat surface, so very easy to get rid of that. It wraps all the way around through the back side and around to a little bit there on the front, but not too bad as far as seam lines go on HG weapons. Our beam saber effect parts look nice, and the beam saber handles are right around here on the back skirt. Now, this is kind of a cool concept how the beam sabers are stored here on the back skirt, kind of similar to the Hyakushiki. But unfortunately, they're not really in there very securely. They should be kind of centered in there like that. And it looks like actually like a couple of flashlights there on his back skirt, but they can move around very easily and you can kind of shift them side to side accidentally. And so I wish that there was like a little bit better system for like keeping them in place. Otherwise, you just kind of have to try your best to kind of center them there. But they pull out of the back skirt very easily, and they are pretty nicely detailed here just as far as simple beam saber handles go. And then we've got the shield, which has always been kind of a weird one for me. It's very thin, and I mean that in kind of multiple different ways. Thin as in like its thickness, it's just like a very thin shield, doesn't really seem to have much meat to it. And then also thin in terms of the width. It's a pretty long one and kind of a standard length, and you can actually adjust the length of it, but the thickness as in like the width of it is quite narrow. But yeah, as I was saying, you can adjust this, so you just kind of take it apart. It's very similar to like the Mark II, the Gundam Mark II's shield, and so you just take that off and put that back on in its sort of collapsed form here like this. And it's nice that this yellow piece is actually a separate yellow piece and not a sticker. The connection piece here is just plugged into a polycap, and you can adjust the angle of that up and down a little bit, and then this is able to, it plugs into, the connection piece plugs into the back of the arm, but then the shield you can either have on the side of the arm or the back of the arm. So it's nice to have some cool options there with that. A very simple shield, but you have some good options. Now speaking of stickers, probably going to be one of the very few even slightly negative things you can really say about this, but considering the design, it kind of makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about those. Up here in the head, we have the normal ones like for the camera at the top, the camera here in the back. Those look really nice. There's a sticker for underneath the clear part, which is pretty nice. That's not always a given. We often have different grunt type mobile suits or mobile suits that have a visor, and you don't always get a mirror sticker to go into behind the visor part to make it look nice and bright and shiny and add a little bit of detail in there. It looks great. Now up here on the head though, that yellow part, that's also a sticker. I feel like in a more modern kit, it's possible that could be a separate part, but not necessarily. You have a seam line that's going to wrap around the top of the head between the front and back half of that, but the antenna also looks really nice on there. Now inside the back here, those are supposed to be red on the inside of the thrust spells. They're not, so it's something that you'll just have to paint. Again, for an HG kit, not too out of the ordinary, but the rest of this red inside here, that's a sticker, actually 5 stickers, one for the center, and then each of the inner walls of this vent is a separate sticker for that. So they go on nice rather than having like one sticker that you have to kind of press into there and you have to try to like fold it and do all this kind of weird stuff to get it into place, and then it ends up just looking terrible. Having 5 separate stickers means that you don't have to do that, which is nice. It just means, you know, more stickers, but it ends up looking pretty good. It's the same thing down here on the back of the legs. That's actually not 5, there's no sticker for the center, but 4 stickers that go around on each of the inner walls of this massive kind of thruster there on the back of the legs. On the side of the legs, little stickers there, and those ones are examples even where it's one single sticker that you have to press into that detail and it doesn't look quite as good. And then going back up to the chest, this red part there in the chest, that's a sticker. I believe if this was a more modern release, probably that would have been a separate part. And, you know, I would like to think that it would be separate, like red parts, so you would get a separate red piece to go in here, here, and then at the back. Probably not for this one, but I would like to think that that would have been some separate red parts just to cover all those red details. But that one, again, the sticker wraps around there, that detail pretty nicely. It's not really very apparent that it's a sticker, so I think it does the job well enough. And then we also have some gray ones for around here at the wrist. It's basically the end of the lower arm. You have a sticker that fits over that. And again, it fits in place pretty well. It's not immediately obvious that it's a sticker, so I think it does the job well enough. If you don't want to use that, it would be a pretty easy part to just hand paint that with sort of some gray paint, if you feel so inclined. Back on the topic of seam lines here real quick, there's one more that I want to note to you guys, and that's just through the top of the shoulder, which again is pretty standard for HG kits, even through the top of the torso there as well. Those are very common on HG kits, so it's not really anything too surprising. Would have been nice if it didn't have that, but the nice thing is that it doesn't go through the center of the event. Now I have the sticker on there and it's covering that up, but the seam line wraps around the like the inside of corners of that detail, so that you don't have a seam like right down the center of the vent, if you guys get what I mean. That makes it much easier to remove that seam without having to, you know, re-scribe out that detail or anything. But let's talk a little bit about some of the articulation here for this guy. As I'm remembering, there is another sticker up underneath the head. So just like with the forearms, there's a gray sticker there for that neck detail right there. But again, you know, if you, depending on how you have the kit posed, you're like not even going to be able to see that at all. But the head will point up all the way to there, which should be very nice for your, you know, flying through space posing like that, down to there. Nice movement side to side. It's just on a very simple double ball joint polycap there, so nothing too crazy. And speaking of double ball joints, you really don't have much movement here in the torso, unfortunately. It's pretty limited, just a little bit of a wiggle, and that's about it. You can rotate it at the midsection. The shoulder joint will swing forward like that. Your shoulder armor can move up. This extra little flap here on the side, you have a little bit of movement of that being able to move on its own. That will allow you to ultimately bring the arm up to slightly more than 90 degrees, but not too much. And that's about the extent of that. We have rotation here at the bicep. The elbow is going to give you just about 90 degrees, slightly more. That's about it, unfortunately. Oh, and another seam line I should mention here on the back side of the arm. There isn't on the front because it's hidden as like a panel line detail right there. On the back side of the arm though, again, that's going to be a pretty easy one to get rid of, that seam there. The wrist, of course, just on a simple ball joint. The front skirts are joined, but you can clip them apart for individual movement if you want, but those have no issue. Just up and down quite far. Those shouldn't be in the way of anything. The side skirts as well can move up a little bit. The back skirt background here is fixed in place, and we do have a attachment point here for plugging this onto your standard 3mm peg action base. That also means that the whole hip section will swing side to side like that. You can bring the legs out to the side pretty far, about as far as you would need, I would imagine, and then all the way up to the front as well. A nice double joint there in the knee is going to give you a pretty full bend. You get most of the bend out of just a single joint though. The secondary bend, if you can see here, just going to give you that extra little bit, not really a whole lot. But going down here to the ankle is a really unique ankle structure here for this one, just because of the design of the lower leg, it being kind of based around this big massive thruster there at the back. But this whole section will move forward and back a little bit like that, and then it's connected here at the bottom via a ball joint there for your main ankle connection. The ankle armor here, you can rotate up and down a little bit. Up underneath the feet, you have some nice detail there. Otherwise, your ankle movement is going to be pretty good here for this, just due to it being sort of like a very long double joint there. And so with that, why don't we take a look at some poses here with this. Like I said at the start, it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward kit. Nothing really too crazy about it, but if that's what you're looking for, just a nice, simple, solid HGUC kit, you're going to be very happy with this. Now, there's a couple of design features that I don't necessarily like about this, and the green plastic, I will say, it's a bit interesting, the kind of color that it is, or more to the point, it's kind of somewhat transparent nature in how it feels. When the RE100 Vigna Gina came out, a lot of people talked about the somewhat transparent feeling of that red plastic for that kit. This is very similar to that, the green plastic, I feel like. It's nothing really to do with the quality of the kit or anything. The plastic doesn't feel like a lower quality plastic or anything. I don't think you're going to have any problems with it, just something that I thought, that I noticed while building the kit that I thought I'd mention to you guys. But otherwise, a pretty straightforward one, and even though it's not a very old kit, I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it to be as nice as it is, but it is a really nice kit, you know, sort of on par with a lot of the 2010s HGUC kits that were coming out, a lot of the Unicorn era HGUC kits that have all been really quite nice in my experience. And definitely one thing that I love about this is just that you get a nice range of hand options for this. You have the fixed pose hands available in holding hands, trigger finger hands, open hands, and closed fist. That's something that I really desperately wish that Bandai would just make standard in all of their HG releases. In whatever the line, and unfortunately it's not the case. Hopefully that's something that Bandai will get back to in future, you know, lines, or, you know, future additions to the HGUC line, because even in the HGUC line, it's not necessarily standard. It kind of was for a short time there, using this kind of generic hand runner, the MP hand runner there, but unfortunately they don't really seem to use that so much anymore. But that's gonna do it for this review, guys. If you want to check out some more Gunpla or anything else from Bandai, tools, paints, supplies, any of that good stuff, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. All sorts of stuff there that you guys can check out on the website. And if you'd also like to like and or subscribe while you're here, that would be greatly appreciated. Hope you guys enjoyed taking a look back, a little bit slightly older HG kit here for this review. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.